Good evening, everyone. I'm Diane Sullivan with the National Capital Planning Commission, and I know we're running behind, and I knew that was going to cut into my 7 minutes, so let's get that presentation up. How many people are familiar with the Southwest area, south of the National Mall, where all the federal agencies are located? It's a lot of concrete. Okay, I don't need to spend a lot of time describing it. It doesn't look like this today. Actually, Marcel mentioned 2 years ago that we started the speaker series with Posey out here. We also launched the Southwest Ecodistrict Initiative at that time. NCPC launched this initiative working very closely with GSA and the DC Office of Planning and 15 other local and federal agencies. It's really been quite a collaborative effort, and early this summer we will be releasing our plan and strategy for this area. It's really going to be a roadmap for the future transformation, revitalization, and redevelopment of everything here. So it doesn't take a lot to, I mean, you don't have to look very hard to see sort of what's wrong with this picture here. We have huge super block sized buildings. There's a rail line that runs through here, and then we have, of course, the freeway here. What you don't see here is the federal government is re-examining its property right now to meet aggressive sustainability targets, re-examining its property to meet a modern workforce. We're more mobile now, and looking at also these properties as still very valuable properties because it's so close to downtown, close to other federal agencies, and also close to a great nexus of transportation activity. What you also don't see right now is a multi-billion-dollar waterfront development going in right here and no way to access it from the National Mall and downtown. And then you also have private developers actually getting ready to start investing some money into this area as well. So it's interesting. It's like all of these, oh, and actually I should say one more thing. There's actually museums and memorials considering this area for their development projects too. You know, NCPC a long time ago said this would be a wonderful area for new museums and memorials, but you know, people were kind of reluctant to come here, and now I think all of this really has put this area on the cusp of change, which is really exciting. So so this is basically everything I don't get to talk about tonight. We basically have looked at everything that's going to transform this area. The open space, looking at Maryland Avenue and 10th Street as major open space corridors where cultural facilities might go. It's sort of a new desirable mix of uses. I failed to mention that, you know, in addition to this being largely federal, there's no residential uses here whatsoever, which doesn't make for a really great mixed-use community. Very little retail. All the retail is actually underground. And then a street network that isn't, you know, that doesn't work for anyone. I mean, it's impossible to get around because of those infrastructure barriers that I talked about. And we've spent a lot of time studying these issues. The city has spent a lot of time studying these issues, and all of this is part of our plan. But what I want to focus on tonight is energy and water, just because, you know, we're talking about eco-districts tonight. And when we set out to do this plan, it was like, you know, when President Obama set some pretty aggressive targets for the federal government. And we said, you know, we think that we can do better in terms of sustainability, in terms of water and energy, if we look at this entire area, this little district here, instead of just looking at individual buildings. And we wanted to see with numbers if that in fact was true. Not only is that true, we can't meet our sustainability targets we can't meet our sustainability targets by doing just stuff at the building scale. This is the only way that we're going to meet them. So first I'll talk a little bit about our district water system. Basically, we took a look at how much water comes into this area, how much water we use today, and to sum it up pretty quickly is we basically can capture all of the rainwater from the roofs in this area, treat a lot of it in bioswales along the areas that aren't elevated here, which is actually north of here. So treat a lot of it through bioswales. Some of that can infiltrate, and then a lot of it can actually be stored under 10th Street in cisterns. We have the space there. That is the one great thing about 10th Street. It is an elevated platform, but it does provide us space, and that water can be reused for all of our non-potable water needs. Now, we need to study exactly how far out we can actually use that water for, because obviously it gets expensive to run more and more pipes. But certainly with all of the redevelopment and infill that we think is going to happen in this area, we can be using that, keeping water underneath, capturing it, not sending it down to DC water to be, not pumping it down there and wasting energy, but just keeping it right here and reusing it. Today, all the water that we use in this district is potable water, which is it's expensive, and it also uses a lot of energy, and it certainly doesn't need to be. If we do this, we can, in a redeveloped scenario, provide 71% of the total water that this area needs with this water under 10th Street. And so in terms of what we're doing with next steps right now is actually looking at, so we did the technical feasibility first. We know enough to say, okay, this actually could possibly happen. Now we're going to start looking at the financial feasibility of it, taking into account, as Brandon, I think, mentioned, our stormwater, our stormwater fees are going to, they're just going up and up and up over the next 20 years. Potable water, how expensive is that? And actually working with, possibly private companies or a hybrid of, a city public-private partnership to actually implement this. Now I have to sail through energy. So we've done the same thing with energy. We have 4 strategies. We have solar panels, ground source heat, sewer mining, and the cogeneration plant for this area. District energy is a really big, important piece of this. The solar panels, this is not so much district energy. It's just that we have enough opportunity here to do solar that would equate to 7% of our total energy use, which would be fantastic. We won't have any green roofs because we need all that water for our water use. Ground source heat can provide 6% of the total energy use in this area. We can have 2% of our energy use from sewer mining. And then we have a cogeneration plant here, which is our greatest asset. It has some issues right now in that the federal government owns and operates it and cannot extend it to private buildings. We hope that we can change this, and whether it ends up being the federal government or a private entity, that this cogeneration plant is really the key to serving. It provides the heating and cooling for buildings in this district. If we can do this, if we can have all the buildings in this area on the cogeneration plant, it will reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 51%, which is just amazing. So basically, the point here that I want to make is that these strategies actually informed our development pattern that we see happening over time. And so basically, here we have our area today. Here we have buildings. We're looking at, we have to put together a phasing strategy here. We have light rehab and light blue. These are buildings that we know are going to change in the future, so we don't want to invest too much money in them. The darker blue, we know they're staying there. They're going to stay federal, and we want to fully rehab them to the best that we can so that they have very low energy and water use. Then you have buildings that are could be repurposed. It might be a good idea for them to be repurposed over time. Maybe, what I mean by that is maybe changing ownership, changing use. And then you look at infill in the super light blue. That is, these buildings are designed in a way to, to maximize their orientation for solar, to minimize solar heat gain, and to hook up into the cogeneration plant and to take advantage of a district water system. And then ultimately, you have redevelopment of some of the key parcels that we think, for example, the Forrestal complex owned by the Department of Energy right now, that would actually be redeveloped someday, and then some decking over the freeway. And so those strategies actually inform this. So now I'm just going to, I think I actually already talked about the results, but the point here is that we really are able to do so much better than if we had just done simple strategies at the building scale. So 71% of our total water use in the redeveloped scenario comes from non-potable water. Did I say that right? Yeah, and then 51% carbon emissions reduction, which is, there's no way we would have been able to achieve that without the cogeneration plant. And then here's just some before and after shots. This is 10th Street, looking towards the castle. And here's sort of a revitalized 10th Street. And I don't have time to go through all the strategies, but this will be up on NCPC's website. And then we have, this is from Main Avenue, looking up at Banneker, the overlook, and here's a brand new connection with a new museum and memorial, bringing us down to that beautiful new waterfront. And then this is Reservation 113, an NPS-owned property. and of course employing a lot of the strategies that I talked about, making it a much friendlier place. And then here's the platform, the VRE platform. It's the another great asset that this neighborhood has is the transit, and sort of gives you a sense of, a feel for when we say eco-district, what this area is really going to look like. And here it is. You see a lot of solar panels. And so I think I'm probably about out of time, but I did want to close just on one thing with implementation. This has been our biggest challenge in figuring out how to get these projects off the ground. And I think we'll probably talk about this a little bit tonight with the moderated session. We've been looking at what might work, a business improvement district to sort of get some of these projects off the ground. Is it better to have a private entity come in, do the district energy, do district water? And it's been really interesting collaborating with the other eco districts, because I think we're all struggling with this issue right now. And so with that, I think I'll turn it over to Naomi, and we can probably start to talk about that more.